Our club's always been a forum for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to command attention to the issues of our time and inform the most relevant, compelling, and challenging conversations. Here we offer first-person access to dynamic political, business, and public personality.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts, and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Members and guests, I hope you enjoyed lunch. And a special welcome to those of you joining us online at canadianclub.org. Thank you for spending part of your afternoon with us. My name is Glenn Parkinson, Canadian Club Toronto President and your host this afternoon. Now, we'll get underway with our speaker in just one second, but first I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors who make this possible. Today's event is sponsored generously by Deloitte and Hill and Knowlton, so thank you for helping us put on today. I'd also like to recognize our season sponsor, Canadian Bankers Association, Air Canada, our official airline partner, and our partnership with Canada's Forest Trust Corporation helps offset the carbon impact of our entire season. So thank you to our season partners as well. Those of you who join us regularly know that we often have student leaders with us to join our discussions, and today we welcome a table from Toronto Metropolitan University, so thank you for joining. And oh yes, let's do that. Why not, you know? And we love to have our students, and one of the greatest things, maybe not the greatest, but one of the greatest things about having the student tables is they're first to ask questions, and we love getting questions. So we have in the center of your table question cards, so please make use of those and hold them up, and we've got volunteers who will bring them up and have them entered into the conversation. And for those of you online, there's a button on the right-hand side of your screen that says click to submit questions. So please use that function, and we will also include your questions and bring them up to the moderator. Now, I'm pleased to invite Todd Roberts up to the stage to introduce our speaker. Todd is the Senior Partner, Strategy, Risk, and Transactions at Deloitte. So, Todd, welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to see this room this full. And you can always tell how happy a group is by the noise. So congratulations on being really loud over lunch. So we're delighted to sponsor today's event at the Canadian Club Toronto branch. It's the last event of the season, so Jeremy, no pressure. But we're all really delighted to hear your comments today. So Jeremy, as you all know, is the CEO of Interac, one of Canada's most trusted financial brands. Just let that sink in for a second. One of Canada's iconic, most trusted brands. And so Jeremy joined Interac in August 2023. It does not seem like 10 months. The impact that you're having is outstanding. Jeremy joins us from ACI, a great worldwide payments company based in the US. But Jeremy is interesting because he has a truly global perspective, having lived on all the major continents of the world. He's got a really precise understanding of how Canada can improve, and you're going to hear more about that as Jeremy gives you some of his insights from the first 10 months, and as he gives you a sneak preview, early look, into the 3-year corporate strategy for Interac. So he's going to discuss how Interac and the financial ecosystem participants can position Canada not as a follower, not as an average player, but as a leader in the global digital economy, driving progress for all Canadians. And following his remarks, Jeremy will be joined by Anne Gaviola, good, from Global News for a discussion of Canada's evolving payments landscape, the shift to digital platforms, and the future of Canada's digital economy. So please join me in giving a good payments welcome to Jeremy Wilmot.
Thank you, Todd, and well done on getting the names right. That's one of the big challenges living in Canada, I found. There's a lot of different names, and trying to get them all right can be a challenge. Thank you for the pressure. Season finale, I've now heard, so I'll do my best. And thank you as well, Todd, for the welcome you give me into the ecosystem. So you're clearly a major part of this ecosystem, as Deloitte is, and do really appreciate the welcome you've given and helping me to navigate in the first 10 months. A lot to learn, and I'm continuing to learn. Really looking forward to the journey going ahead, which I'll talk a little bit about now. So I'm very excited to be here. I was looking for that. Very excited to be here today because not only is it a culmination of 10 months of being at Interac, but I do feel as though it's a culmination of a career that I've spent, that Todd alluded to, around the world of helping economies to transform and to move to a new digital way of existing and a new digital life. I decided to come to Canada and specifically to Interac because I saw that rare opportunity where I could be part of a journey and a transformation where an entire financial system can leap forward and potentially can lead in the digital environment. And there aren't many large economies like Canada where that sort of opportunity exists. At Interac, we've just got approval for our strategy for 2025 through 2027. That actually happened last week at our board meeting. So this is the first time I'm talking about that outside of the walls of Interac, and I'm very excited by that. As we developed our strategy, we set a North Star, and on the screens, if you can see them, is the North Star we set ourselves. It's critically important to have a North Star when you're setting a strategy. It's a long-term direction that you're going to go for. It's what the Vikings used to conquer the world. And it's important for a strategy because our strategy is a 36-month, 3-year period. And then we use that North Star in order to set that 3-year strategy. So that's what I'm going to be talking a bit about today. And I'd love you just to keep that North Star in the back of your mind. So throughout my life, I've learned that in order to look forward, often it's very helpful to look backwards and look at history. So let's go back in time. Imagine 120 years ago, you're in this exact spot. And in fact, you probably wouldn't want to be in this exact spot, because in April 1904, this place was on fire. The neighborhood was in flames. Back then, this was the Queen's Hotel, the predecessors to the Royal York. A number of government officials were staying here. The fire was raging. They cooperated across party lines in order to ensure that flames were put out, and they saved the hotel. But most places in the neighborhood were actually not so lucky. And nearly 100 buildings were destroyed during that time, all around Bay, including where Interac's headquarters are, and I'm sure where many of your headquarters are today, and it looks very different as a result. And it would be many, many weeks before the rubble stopped smoking. So this great Toronto fire of 1904. It happened because there wasn't proper infrastructure in place to support and protect the businesses and the people. And the root cause of that was deceptively simple. They had no shared approach to water. And if they had that shared approach to water, and then buildings could have put sprinkler systems in place, and it could have saved a major part of downtown Toronto. It could be looking very different today. So the neighborhood was rebuilt using concrete and steel, and what came up from that rubble was a new financial district that we all know and love, and a new era of prosperity for the country. And I'm here in Canada because I saw some of that in terms of this opportunity and moment for rebirth for the financial system in Canada. And water was essential to the rebuilding after the Great Fire. So what is the equivalent today of water? It's data. And data is the equivalent for rebuilding our digital infrastructure going forward. So while robust data sharing, protection, and infrastructure, without the data sharing, the protection and infrastructure of our digital economy, it's vulnerable to attacks, to catastrophic breaches, to systemic fraud, and in turn, that actually is a threat to economic stability. So over the next 3 to 5 years, this sector is fundamentally upgrading its infrastructure. And that's to guard against catastrophes in this new era of highly competitive digital environment that we live in. And at Interac, we have something in common with that high-pressure water system that was then put in place after the fire. We're a network that serves Canadians, and it serves Canada's entire financial ecosystem. Todd referred to it as being the most trusted brand amongst financial services. And we've always been a way for the sector to help orchestrate an upgrade of itself. So Interac, again, looking at the history, 45 years ago or so in the 80s, you couldn't use another bank's ATM from the one that you had an account. In 1984, Interac made that possible. And a decade later, Interac introduced point-of-sale payment with a debit card. In 2010, it was introduced with a tap, much to the amazement of my friends south of the border. And in 2003, we introduced e-transfer, and today that's the world's leading peer-to-peer payment platform. In 2021, we launched digital verification, leveraging online banking credentials. So there are a lot of firsts there and a lot of great achievements that Interac has delivered over its history. And that's built that trust that Todd has talked about. So what do we do going forward as we leverage the infrastructure that we have? So Canada's at this point of a major digital upgrade for the financial system. We're setting up to play at Interac a new role, a central role. In fact, there are 3 roles that we're specifically looking at playing. There's the operator, protector, and the enabler. And I'll first talk about the operator. So as the operator of data-rich instant payments, and this includes our relationship with Payments Canada, which is critically important, as well as with our technology partners, IBM, CGI. So in the next few years, Canada is going to join the ranks of the world's most advanced digital economies like India, Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, all of which run on a real-time settled account-to-account backbone. And this is good news because we have a challenge in Canada. The OECD is currently expecting Canada to be in last place amongst advanced countries in terms of GDP growth per capita between 2020 and 2030. It's not a place that any of us want to be. It's uncomfortable, and so we want to get out of that, and digital infrastructure upgrade is a key part of doing that. So we know from other countries the sort of positive economic impacts that come with instant real-time payments. For instance, in Brazil, Pix was launched in 2020, only 4 years ago. Despite the fact that tens of millions of Brazilians had no experience with digital payments, within 24 to 30 months, roughly 140 million Brazilians, about 80% of the adult population, had signed up, were using it, and had processed more than 36 billion transactions. That's how fast this can happen. So what you see in markets like Brazil is just how that usage can snowball. It starts with consumers discovering little things that are more convenient for them. Perhaps they can pay at a food truck with a QR code, or they discover that an easier way to pay their bills, which is not easy today. That there's no need to try and get a bank draft in order to put a down payment on a major purchase like a car. And before you know it, the notion of doing business really starts to accelerate. And imagine for small businesses, which account for 98% of Canadian employers, what they can do with real-time payments. They can pay and get paid instantly. Cash flow improves. They can operate more efficiently to get more credit. Customer interactions become more seamless. And if you have any doubt about whether businesses are hungry for this, our own Interac e-transfer request to pay feature is enjoying 280% growth year on year. And the use cases and the number of people and businesses using the instant payments, it keeps on growing. And with that growth, it drives velocity of money in the economy. And as the economists out there know, that is a positive flywheel impact on job creation and economic stability and growth. So this backbone of real-time and RTR is critical in order to get us out of last place in terms of GDP growth. So the great news is we have this fabulous Team Canada group of expert partners. That's why it's so important in order to collaborate and come together to extend real-time account-to-account across the economy. And in recent months, there's been a wave of momentum around this RTR development. Our relationship with Payments Canada has renewed energy. It's very strong. We're going to be playing a primary role. Interac will play a primary role as operator and technical operator of the Canadian real-time RTR system. And a number of the financial providers are going to be building new products and services using that rail. And the opportunities for the ecosystem are vast. So now, as we upgrade and build, we must be able to prevent the possibility of another great fire or the equivalent of that in the digital world. And the greatest threat in a digitized economy is not fire, it's fraud. And in a world of instant money movement, bad actors have big incentives to do big, bad things. And that has been seen across 50 countries around the world who have introduced new real-time systems. So we're about to see a rush of new players into our financial system. New fintechs will build new real-time solutions on the RTR. Developments like open banking are going to accelerate this. There's going to be a sharing of data in order to make this happen. And meanwhile, AI is being used by everybody, including the financial crime syndicates, and fraud is getting harder and harder to spot by the day. So instant money movement, while it's great, introduces many more points of vulnerability. AI deepfakes make that even harder to detect. If these combine and they catch fire, they damage the economy, and people like you in this room, as well as your family and friends who you know and love, it could be catastrophic to individual lives. So this is where Interac's second step is coming in. I talked about operate, protect, and enable. So we'll be a protector to the ecosystem. We're going to lead on fraud prevention. We're going to lead on fraud detection for the Canadian ecosystem over and above what we do today. So fraud trend lines are worrisome, and Canada does have a soft underbelly and is one of the more vulnerable large advanced economies in the world. So by some measures, we've seen a 39% increase in digital fraud attempts for transactions within Canada. And that compares to a mid to low single-digit growth of that digital attacks in most other countries. So based on the data, Canada had the 5th highest rate of suspected fraud, digital fraud attacks, and the 3rd highest increase in fraud rates amongst 19 countries that were surveyed by TransUnion. And fraud losses here in Canada are estimated to be in the $6 to $11 billion range. These are very large numbers. And that was before AI became a mainstream part of financial crime operations. So preventing fraud, it starts with knowing that the person or the entity you're transacting with is truly that person or that entity. And that's why in the future, the vision should be that every transaction needs a form of verification on both sides. And properly managed, digital verification schemes are very powerful. Look at the Nordics with Bank ID. It makes it much harder for financial crime syndicates to get up to no good. Sweden in the Nordics, its online transactions using Bank ID are near zero and some of the best metrics in the world. At Interac, we've been investing heavily in verification since 2019. We're ramping that up over the next 3 years. We're working on introducing confirmation of payee enhancements so you can be sure you're sending money to the person you think, as well as the digital verification of the sender themselves. So that's fraud prevention. Try and stop it before it's actually started or happened. And then after it's happened, there's the notion of fraud detection. And because of Interac's shared role in the ecosystem, we're uniquely positioned to run a data scheme that can assist fraud across the economy. So today, Interac has visibility of about 8 billion transactions, about a third of all Canadian payments by volume. And our position in this middle network position means we see both sides of a transaction, means we can identify patterns across financial institutions, take steps that we can see as likely fraudulent transactions. And we have access to transaction data that no other entity has access to. And alongside that access comes back to trust. So we're a trusted partner of the financial institutions, of the credit unions. We have trusted commercial relationships with government. We have well-established practices and capabilities to handle sensitive data. And so we really feel as though we're the right partner to convene this consortium of data providers, put the data to work, and to protect all players. So we're also going to improve fraud products and develop centralized blacklists of bad actors with the help of AI. And we'll run networks-wide scoring, AI-assisted of transactions in real time. And what this means is something quite unique for Canada. Because on day one of the RTR go live, there'll be a robust fraud system in place. That may not sound like big news, but it is, because Canada is actually going to be the first country in the world to have done that. So elsewhere around the world, let's put the real-time settlement in, and afterwards we'll put in a fraud system. That's what happened in India, that's what happened in the UK. So it's an opportunity for us here in this room to leapfrog, which is what Todd was talking about, a way of leading, not of fast following. And this is a great example of that, so that we can deliver a made-in-Canada solution that really serves Canadians' needs and doesn't hand over the keys to global tech giants. So in this new era of instant payments, I've talked about Interac being the operator, technical operator of the RTR scheme, being the protector by significantly enhancing our investments in fraud. And there's a third piece, which is the enabler. And this is something that we do today. So we're going to continue, but we are also going to expand our role to connect consumers, businesses, and financial institutions in a seamless, secure, and information exchange way. So our history has been built on providing that critical infrastructure to the Canadian ecosystem. Our new strategy celebrates that we'll continue to provide that critical infrastructure. So we're committed to continue to invest and grow in Interac Debit, to invest and grow in Interac e-Transfer, and invest and grow in Interac Verified. So those are sort of three core existing businesses that we have today. But we'll in parallel look at enhanced enablement. So we'll look for new capabilities that complement those existing product lines. And one area of focus that we're looking at very closely is the digital checkout experience. And firstly, the digital checkout in e-commerce experience. And wouldn't it be great if we could have a made in Canada for Canadians digital checkout experience that was specifically tailored for our own needs, and it was seamlessly integrated with the existing online experience that you have today, and you trusted it, and it was simple and easy to use. Well, that's what we're working on. Because at Interac, we do have this special ability to help FIs, fintechs, and other Canadian businesses to scale and grow new use cases quickly and to deliver rich experiences to the market. And it's always been one of Interac's strengths, making digital transactions simple, making them consistent, and in ways that every Canadian and every business can take advantage of. So those are the roles that Interac will play: operator with the RTR scheme, protector with enhanced fraud prevention, fraud detection, enabler with our core businesses, as well as a new digital checkout experience. But we can't advance Canada's digital economy on our own as Interac. No one in the ecosystem can act on their own. It's a team game. So this new era holds immense opportunities for all of us, for everyone, in the financial sector, but also across industry as a nation. It holds risks, and to safely seize those opportunities, we all need to adapt and change. So at Interac, we've spent the last 9 months going through a huge transformation of change, biggest change that Interac's ever been on. And we did that to prepare ourselves to execute on this strategy. We substantially reorganized ourselves, and we structured to be much more agile and responsive. But more than anything else, what we're doing at the same time is we're changing our mindset, our values, our behaviors, and we're being very specific and precise about it. Some of you have heard me talk about this concept of jugaad. Jugaad is a Hindi term. It's spelt J-U-G-A-A-D. And it really embraces the notion of innovation through focusing on what you have and through a more frugal means, frugal in terms of time and money. It's the spirit of innovation that's made India, which frankly is a notoriously bureaucratic and hierarchical society, one of the world's most advanced digital economies, and it's given India that competitive edge on the global scale of mega economies. So here in Canada, we have all the building blocks of a thriving digital economy. We've got real-time capabilities with e-transfer. We have the fundamentals of verification being used in government and in the banks. We have trust of the consumers. We have stability, and we have expertise. So here's my call to action as I wrap up here. There are 3 things that we need to do, all of us in this room. The first one is change our mindset. So we need that speed, we need that agility, we need that jugaad approach and that jugaad mindset. We need to focus on what we have and stop talking about what we don't have. Configure what you have. Canada has the infrastructure in place. We don't need to go and build a lot more. We can innovate fast and we can innovate on what we have. So that's number 1. Number 2 is collaboration. We're all going to need to collaborate much more fluidly and closely than we have. I talk about data, but there are many other points of collaboration as well. From what I've seen, the appetite is great for collaboration. Canada has the shared vision, and it has the close relationships that are required in order to collaborate effectively. So we have the building blocks for a much heightened collaboration. And then the third and the last piece is water. So share the data. We've got to share data to protect ourselves from the bad actors. Every player is going to need to responsibly share data in order to protect ourselves. There's no other way to advance our competitiveness as a nation. In fact, Canada has an opportunity in this space to then lead again with fraud protections built in from day 1 of RTR. So we can do this. A made in Canada for Canadians, and together we can advance the financial system to safely drive prosperity for Canadians and make Canada a world-leading digital economy. So thank you very much. to walk over here.
Okay. I'm also walking over.
Do you want a hand?
Oh, thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. That was a fantastic presentation. My name is Anne Gaviola. I'm with Global News. I'm a national reporter, anchor, and host. I've been covering business for 15 years, and it is my absolute delight to be here today because in 2018, 2019, I worked in the fintech industry. So a lot of the things that you touched on are very exciting to me. I want to start things off, though, and just a little bit of an inside scoop. Before we came up here, Jeremy was like, what kind of hard questions are you going to ask me?
Yeah.
So
I think I said don't ask any hard questions. I think.
It was implied. So first things first, though, I do want to ask, so we've gotten kind of a snapshot of your experience. Your career spans 30 countries. Including, many years at a major U.S. global payments company. Why Canada? Why Interac?
It wasn't on the radar to begin with.
Okay.
So in all honesty, I got a call from a friend in the US, and he said, hey, I think there's this incredibly unique opportunity. And he said it, and I said, I'm not sure. And he said, nope, you got that totally wrong. You should shut up and listen to me. And he's a friend of mine, so I did. And for 30 minutes, he talked to me about the plans of Interac, the ambitions of the shareholders, the state of the team. And as I heard more and more, I got a lot more excited. And I said, okay, well, here's a national player in a top 10 global economy. You can make a significant difference. And at a stage of my career where I'm looking for something where I can make a significant contribution and difference. That's the most important thing. And then the great thing is when I got in and I started talking to the Interac, many of whom are here today, I said, why are you here? Why did you join? Why are you here? And every single one answer is very purpose-driven. And it's actually very similar to what I was thinking. I'm here because I want to work for this brand that could make a big difference. It's known and loved by many people, including my family and friends. And I can talk about it, and people know, what I'm talking about, and we really can move the needle. So it just got re-emphasized when I got in here. So that's why the excitement level went up from there. I came up to Toronto in April. Weather wasn't great. It was looking a bit brown, but got past that. And it's no looking back since.
So beyond the weather, and with the understanding that this was sort of a no initially, what are your impressions of Canada, of Toronto, and of Interac?
So very positive, literally. So I arrived day one, had an incredible welcome from the team, and it has been, the collaboration in Interac has been great. I talked about this major transformation we went through, and we really turned the organization upside down, went from 7 layers to 4 layers. We went from siloed operations to very consistent enterprise-wide agile model, which requires a very different mindset. And the appetite for change is high. But that's not an easy thing to do for those of you who've done that. It's hard. And so I just love the energy and appetite that people have and willingness to learn and do new things in different ways. And then when I was talking to the shareholders before I took the job, I knew that they were trying to sell to me a bit. And then when I actually got in, I realized, no, that absolutely was the thinking of shareholders as well as of the Interac management team. We could do a lot more. Let's go do it. So it's very exciting.
I will ask you later what you think about the Toronto traffic, but let's talk about your impressions as someone with all that international experience of, how does Canada's digital economy rank? Where are we at, and compared to, what other countries are doing?
So not very well. It ranks, there's one of the digital index sources that looked at the G7 countries, and Canada was 6 out of 7 in terms of digitalization capability, and the one G7 country below it was Italy. And so we're nearer the bottom from a digital perspective. But when you then double click and look at digital infrastructure and what's actually available, we go up in the rankings. But it's actually the sort of digital experience of consumers and how you do things every day with government, with business. That's what is low. And so there's obviously an opportunity to accelerate out of that and be one of the leaders.
Yeah, so we have kind of the raw ingredients here. Leading is difficult, but Canada can do it and has done it in many other industries. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see? And I mean, based on what you've described, some of it too is cultural. We like stable financial systems. We like things to work, and compared to a lot of other countries, things in Canada work really well, thankfully.
Yeah, and it's always hard to change when things are going fabulously well.
Yes.
And of course, the best time to change is when things are going fabulously well. That is the best time. And you know, the financial industry in Canada is one of the strongest in the world. By some measures, it's the strongest in the world. But there's a serious threat from big tech in terms of moving into financial services. It's been talked about for decades. I think it's getting more and more real every day. And then there are those large fintech companies who are also coming into either Canada and doing things that a Canadian corporation could be doing, or they're actually taking share away from financial institutions themselves. So the competitive environment is very real, and sometimes that's not appreciated. Well, is it really as real as that? And I'm an advocate to say it's very real, and it's happening every day right now. So one is just that awareness, you know, do I have to change? And then secondly was that Jugar, you know, approach that I was talking about, and hard questions. And then that Jugar approach of a change mindset, saying, okay, I don't have to have everything perfect in order to launch. You know, I've seen things in the ecosystem that have taken 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years to launch. You didn't have to do that. You could have tried to launch in 180 days. And then knowing that your minimum viable product after 180 days is not going to meet all the needs. And in fact, if it meets all the needs and then you waited too long, you should have done it in 90 days or maybe 45 days. Because the whole point is a lot of people didn't like the things about it. And so that's the Jugar approach of frugality with time, right? And time is money, so you know it helps us with that as well. So changing that in this room, and we're doing it in Interac, and so we're advocating heavily with our ecosystem partners that they all do the same.
I will get to the questions. Thank you, everyone who's contributed, and this one is actually very similar to the one that I was going to ask. But I think there is an unwritten rule that at about this point in any Q&A, I must ask about AI, because it is the thing that so many people want to know about. When we talk about AI, based on my understanding, a lot of the things we're referring to will not be referred to as AI in a couple of years. They will just be parts of the products. They'll be baked into, you know, the services that we expect. But it is a nascent technology. It is a potential game changer. So tell us about, you know, the AI impact on Interac's strategy.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with the way you introduced that, right? Because it's a technology. It's an underlying technology. It's a general purpose technology that can be purposed for many different things. And financial services and what Interac does will be one of the big use cases for it. So 2 things that I think about. Maybe I'll put a third one on there. So the first one is a co-pilot. Microsoft, I think, does a great, and sorry to the other tech companies who provide AI, but that whole notion of co-pilot branding it's great, right? There's 700 people work at Interac. Each of them could have a co-pilot. That co-pilot will help you. It'll never do your job for you. It'll help you to do your job better. And you'll always be the final sign-off. So, you know, I can't go and blame my co-pilot. It's me. So I'm the final producer of it. So we're looking at that from an Interac point of view, how we have that, whether you're a coder, whether you're a business developer, whatever you are. And then the second piece of it is to embed it into our solutions. And so I talked about Protector, I talked about fraud detection. That is a big use case for AI today. It was for machine learning before AI, and now for AI. So we can be much more efficient in scoring transactions. We could then use those transactions to be profiling customer behavior that can then drive marketing capabilities around that. So those are the two big things. The last one I talk about is India and UPI. And actually, for the last 4 or 5 years, India have been talking about conversational payments. And conversational payments, actually, the motivator in India is that for those people with feature phones or dumb phones, how do you get them into the digital payment environment? Well, conversational payments is a way to do that, so that you can just say, I want to transfer $1,000 to Anthony, and please put a memo on it of X, Y, Z, and then it does the verification, and with enhancements for that in other markets, you say, well, it could then recognize my voice for verification, and it could have a conversation with me for payments, which clearly enhances the user experience, makes it easier to use, which will then just continue to increase the growth rates of digitalization. So that, I think that's a really interesting piece that MPCI in India is working on right now.
Fascinating, and definitely a need to make sure that the accuracy is there.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting experiments with voice recognition software and things that exist, and there's definitely room for improvement. The first question here is, what is your opinion on open banking to distribute data across multiple providers as a strategy to limit single points of failure in cybersecurity?
So first of all, what's my opinion on open banking?
Yes.
I think that the open era of opening up accounts and opening up data to accelerate the innovation and user experience, but also to look to accelerate resilience and security is what we've seen many markets around the world do. It's very logical that we do that. And I think that Canada's moving in the right direction with that, with RPAA and consumer-driven banking. RTR is going to be a big backbone of that. And so a lot of the products that we're building at Interac are about leveraging the open banking movement. So I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. And if you start opening up, you allow players to come in to innovate, which enlarges the aperture of people who can add value and do great, cool new things. And there's no reason that can't apply to security and to resilience. And those are the areas that you need to work on in order to avoid, the cyber threats, et cetera, that question talks to.
Okay, so you spoke of the concept of, you have to help me out with this one, Juga.
Yeah.
Evaluating what we have versus what we lack, how can Canada, and specifically Toronto, take charge of this? Canada.
Yeah, and Toronto, Ontario. I mean, I think, so first of all, it's a mindset. And I think that when we have a new initiative, so I talked about centralized blacklists of, say, a mule account, identifying a mule account. And we could take 24 months, 36 months, try and get that all in place, get it all perfect, get it all ready. Or you could iterate that. And you could say, okay, well, I'll try and do it for a section of the market. I'll try and do an MVP approach. I want to learn from that. I want to learn, get the feedback, reiterate, learn, get the feedback, reiterate, just get in the loop. I haven't seen that as a normal way of doing things here. And I think if you go to the Netherlands, you would see that as a normal way to do things. So the big Dutch banks would do it like that. The fintechs would collaborate with them, and they say, yeah, okay, let's do a 100-day MVP, and then let's have 50-day learning, and then let's get back in it. That, to me, is that change of mindset. But Interac would need a merchant, an acquirer, an issuer bank, maybe a PSP, and us, all to be thinking the same way, and to agree that we're going to work to a plan like that.
This next question is super interesting. We were first at many things. What can we be first at now? What is exciting to you? And I would add to that, it is hard to lead. It is hard to be the first as well. So what can we be the first at? And what should we kind of have our eyes wide open for when it comes to being the first in a certain area?
Yeah, so I talked about one already, and that was the fraud detection with the RTR rail from day one. That would be a first. And there are many advantages that can come from that, not just in terms of reducing fraud, but in terms of understanding the customer profiling, et cetera, around that as well. I think that digital verification is a huge opportunity for us here. And some countries have done it and really embedded it in the payment experience. Some countries have done it and it's sort of sitting out on the side. And Interac today works with 45 federal organizations around its verification services and helps to technically run the authentication of the large banks and online banking. And that's where those building blocks are in place. And on a large scale, having digital verification capabilities that can help payments, we could lead in something like that. So I'm very excited by that. I think that e-transfer, which has been in the market for 20 years and is sort of mature, it has the opportunity to improve the customer experience. But when we bring RTR out, so a lot of countries around the world brought their real-time settlement out, and then they built product on top of it. Well, we've got e-transfer that's already operating like that. And so that's another way of extending the P2P leadership and extending the SMB payment acceptance capability. Those would be other areas that I think we could lead in as well.
I'm mindful of the time, but I do want to ask you, what keeps you up at night? I think that is something that people wonder about, and I invite you to kind of think of something that people can take with them, think about beyond this conversation.
Well, the first thing is availability of our systems, that we are 99.999 up and available. That's the biggest thing. When I see severity 1 on customer experience or on availability, I'm typically calling Jeff over there, whether it's Sunday night or whenever it is, and trying to get to the bottom of that. So that's number one in terms of what keeps you awake at night. And the second one is, is Interac doing the right thing in executing on its strategy? So is it something we'd be super proud of when it's put on the front page of any news channel? And something that all of our employees would be able to stand up and say, I'm super proud of that. So are we doing the right thing as we execute on the strategy? I think about that a lot. So that would be the second thing.
That feels like the right place to leave it. Thank you very much for your time, your attention, Jeremy, your insight, and for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Not bad, huh?
Thank you very much. And Jeremy, on behalf of the Canadian Club, thank you so much for sharing your vision, your inspirational vision with us. And, in some ways, like I work in banking, so I'm easily seduced by the topic, but I think you did a terrific job of taking a very important subject matter and making it exciting and inspirational and accessible. So thank you for that. I think we have met Todd's bar for having it a good finale. So congratulations and thank you. And Anne, thank you for facilitating so well. In such a nice, natural style. We appreciate that discussion, and glad to bring you back to your fintech roots of 5-6 years ago. Yeah, definitely. And that ends another season of Canadian Club Toronto. So thank you everybody for being a part of it. It's been my absolute pleasure to serve as president. And I want to just thank a few folks. First of all, the amazing staff at Canadian Club Toronto and our partners, VVC Live, who produce all of these events. Thank you to both. That was anything but jugad. It was very well thought out and executed. So thank you to that group. Another thank you to Deloitte and Hill & Knowlton for sponsoring and making today possible. Thank you for your support. And lastly, we host over 80% of our events here at the beautiful Royal York Hotel. So I want to thank the whole team of banquet managers, servers, chefs, and everybody who helps make this wonderful hospitality very smooth and a real pleasure for all of us. So thank you to the hotel. And congratulations on your 95th birthday. After the Great Fire, you've risen to provide our infrastructure for such a wonderful season. So thank you to everybody online for joining us. In the room, have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you back in September. Bye now.